Hello, my name is Jared Hurley. Today I will be talking to you about this guy. His name is Gale Halvorsen, otherwise known as the Candy Bomber. He also has a few other names, Captain Wiggly Wings and the Chocolate Man. He is a good man that always was very kind to everybody, no matter their circumstance. His parents' names were Luella Spencer Halvorsen and Basil Nudd Halvorsen. They were both fun, relaxed people, and they were happy on their farm, and they lived most of their lives here. They had 3 kids, Sherman, Gale, and Marilyn Halvorsen. They were fairly wealthy because they had bought one of the first horse-drawn wheat combines that were out yet. Gale's passion for flying happened on their farm when he was 10. One day he was reading a book, and it described how a pilot had run out of fuel and he had crashed somewhere in this desert. A cowboy came across this, and he managed to find enough gasoline to be able to get it to a better place, to buy more gasoline so it could be used. And he actually managed to do this and fly it and get it there. And this amazed him because it was so adventurous. And from that day forward, that's all he wanted to do, is to fly. And so whenever he looked up into the sky and there was an airplane, it fueled his want and his passion of flying more and more. And this continued to happen until they had finally saved enough money for him to be able to go. He also had to have a few other things, like he had to be of age, weight, and height, but these were small. So he attended this place. It was a civilian piloting training program. They taught him how to be a good pilot, and he learned, and he had many trials, but this helped him to be better. He earned his private pilot's license in 1941 and then joined the Civil Air Patrol. After that, he joined the United States Army Air Forces in 1942, and he was assigned to Germany on July 10, 1948, to be a pilot for the Berlin Airlift. Halvorsen mainly flew C-47s and C-54s during the Berlin Airlift. Why? Is because they were the only ones big enough and fast enough and strong enough for their purpose. So a big question is, why did we have the Berlin Airlift? After World War II, Germany was split into 4 different sections of the winning opponents: France, United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union. They were all in a council together to help Germany become better and how it used to be. But when the currency had too high of a value, they attempted to fix this. And it honestly would have worked, but the Soviet Union printed out a few billion more notes. This completely devalued the currency and uttered it useless. France, US, and Britain decided to go behind the Soviet Union's back to fix this problem themselves. And they created this new currency called the Deutschmark. The Soviet Union found out and reacted. They were mad. Well, in June 23rd, 1938, all of the Soviet Union was in control of all of West Germany, and they completely blockaded it. Truman was faced with a huge conundrum. They could leave and give up on Germany, and that would end in most likely many fatalities and the demise of Germany, and it would be very bad for a public figure to do something like that. Or they could face war, and this wasn't really a good time to be having another war. There was one other idea, but it was mostly dismissed because it didn't seem logical or feasible, and it was an airlift. But they decided to give it a try anyway. The U.S. were the only ones with the amount of planes and good enough planes to do this. And so they tried it. Although constant threats by the Soviet Union to shoot them down and planes always in the sky with them, they tried it, and neither wanted to risk war. And I think this is why the Soviet Union, all of the anti-aircraft guns remained quiet, and all of their planes didn't try to shoot them down. And at slow, first off, it started building and building and building. With great generals and strategic thinking, and also many strategic plans, they managed to break past what they had originally intended that the Germans needed for the bare minimum. And they were actually finally getting some slack and the ability to not have a good day and not bring as much. This was a very big success in our part. During the airlift, Gil Halvorsen, as we know him, visited some of the children. They were against barbed wire fences or the barricades, and he was talking to them. And all of a sudden, he was just curious about what each one of them wanted. And they were very humble. They told him that we can starve as long as you don't forget about us and don't stop trying. And so, after talking a little while more, he decided to leave. That phrase still stuck with him. And as he did, he thought of what he could give to them. And he had 2 sticks of gum in his pocket. He kind of dismissed the idea, thought it was dumb because the kids would fight over it and stuff. But then he decided to give it a try anyway. And the kids, surprisingly, split the gum the best they could between the 30 of them. And the ones that didn't get any, they took turns sniffing the wrapping paper. He then said to them to meet him there tomorrow, because he had a plan. He was going to try to drop them candy. And he thought it was a great idea and stuff, but one of the kids asked him, "How will we know it's you?" And he said, "I will wiggle my wings," and that's where his nickname, Uncle Wiggly Wings, comes in. Well, when he got back, he started asking around for people's candy rations, and they willingly gave it to him, but many of them suggested using a parachute, and he wasn't sure how he was going to fix this, but he decided that he was going to use handkerchiefs to actually work as parachutes. So, the next day, as he was coming over right about the border, he wiggled his wings a bit. And the kids all super excitedly started jumping up and down in joy, and they waited. And based on some precise calculations that he had done earlier the day, his co-pilot started dropping them out. And they floated down to the kids, and it was like a little scavenger hunt, and everybody was happy and having fun and getting the candy. And many of them just absolutely, they were just affected so much by that day. And some of them still today are great friends with him because he had done that. A little while later, some of the bigwigs figured out about it. And he was unsure of what would happen because unauthorized cargo drops can be very important. But instead of getting mad at him and stuff, they decided to use it. Why this was so important is because if you think about it, at first sight, it just looks like getting a bunch of supplies to them and stuff. And it's not working too well. They're having lots of hard times and stuff, just all that type of thing. Well, when they made Gil Halvorsen's idea an actual operation, this gave the airlift a face. Why this was so important is people started sending money and care packages, and it wasn't just the United States trying to do this by themselves. It was more of a combined effort.